Welcome to the Approaching Wildlife module. I'm going to go over some real-world examples with you for understanding behavioral cues and how to approach wildlife. In this module, you'll understand how to get the best wildlife experiences. You'll learn where to go and how to gain the necessary access to take the most breathtaking wildlife photos possible. When you're with the animals, it's important to move slowly and to convey a non-threatening presence. Always give the animal plenty of space and never corner an animal. They need multiple escape routes because they don't always want to interact with you, and it's important for you not to try to force it. If an animal appears stressed by your presence, slowly and calmly back off. On the same note, if they are exhibiting aggressive behavior such as charging, growling, or hissing, it's also very important for you to back off. Never turn your back on the animal as you're slowly backing off. Always have it in your field of view. It's important to limit your exposure to the wildlife, especially in certain circumstances where there's mother and cubs. If the animal has young, it's important to take extra precautions. Mothers will feel a heightened sense of awareness and a heightened sense of defensive need to protect their young. If the animal is hyper-conscious of your presence, it's important for you to only visit this animal in small increments of time, to not stress out the animal, but to capture natural behaviors. So you don't really want the animal to even notice you're there. This can take time to achieve, so it's important to have patience. Returning to the same animal for a small amount of time each day can help build an animal's trust. The key here is for the animal to know that you're not a threat to them. Do not make noises to get the animal's attention. Do not feed or touch the animal in any circumstances for their safety as well as yours. Work with an experienced guide. When you're approaching the animal, it's nice to calmly talk to them, so that way you know that you're not catching it off guard or surprising it. This helps calm the animal down and prevent aggressive behavior. Most importantly, never put your photo before the well-being of the animal. Some other tips are to wear neutral colors, green, brown, camo, anything that matches the natural environment that helps prevent you from sticking out too much. It's important to be quiet and patient when you're waiting for an animal to approach you. You don't want to be making too much noise or to be having conversations because that can prevent the animal from coming closer. Have your camera prepared before you approach the animal. Take a test shot with the current lighting conditions so that way everything's prepared and you're ready to photograph the animal. Some encounters are super brief, so you don't want to be spending your time setting up the camera while the animal's in front of you. Make sure you have your battery and memory card in your camera and make sure you have enough space to shoot. Having 4 people with you or less will help you get a more intimate experience with the animals. The most ideal number is around 2 to 3, and that way you can get closer and the animal won't feel as threatened by you. Direct approaches on foot and direct eye contact can appear aggressive to an animal, so it's important for you to approach the animal on an angle and to frequently break eye contact. Generally, most animals are not dangerous unless they feel scared, threatened, or caught off guard and surprised. There are definitely some animals you don't want to be approaching on foot. Know what to look for in terms of behavior so that you're not putting yourself, others, or the animal at risk. Now I'm going to go over some real-world examples with you for understanding behavioral cues and how to approach particular wildlife. In this module, you'll understand how to get the best wildlife experiences with a variety of animals and how to gain the necessary access to get the most breathtaking photos possible. If you're headed on safari in Africa, it's best to consult with the location that you plan on visiting, whether it's a private game reserve or a national park. It's important to know what specific rules and regulations they have and to understand the type of safari that they offer. At most locations, it's strictly an in-vehicle experience. At some unique locations, you'll be able to go on foot and explore with professionals. Some locations also offer unique vehicles that allow you to lay down, while others may have quite elevated seating, which isn't always best for photography. It's important to note that the more opportune photography setups that they may offer may be reflected in a higher price point. It's important to note that the more opportune photography setups that they offer can be reflected by a higher price point. For Arctic wildlife access and viewing, it can be significantly more expensive and more logistically complex than traditional wildlife viewing in other regions of the world. Typically, these areas are difficult to get to and they require an Arctic-fitted boat, whether that's an Arctic-built sailboat or an Arctic icebreaker with zodiacs. Additionally, they may require you to take smaller bush planes to get to remote regions or lodges where the wildlife activity occurs. The extreme climate and remote nature of these trips may be uncomfortable for some people. Polar bears are found in the northern subarctic and Arctic regions of our planet. The most popular and most accessible viewing regions for polar bears include Churchill, Manitoba, Canada, northern Nunavut, Canada, Svalbard, Norway, Alaska, USA, and the high Arctic of Canada. Photographing polar bears definitely requires a professional guide with ample experience. Most polar bear viewing in the world is accomplished via boat or by ship, but in Churchill we have a unique opportunity to walk with polar bears on foot at a distance. Chase and I teach both on land and at sea every year. They are both very expensive experiences and require luck to get the best viewing opportunities. They can be curious and engaged, offering an amazing opportunity to photographers, or they can be partially hibernating and not interested whatsoever. When approaching on water, it's best to use a zodiac boat as it's not as large or as loud as a ship. When approaching them on foot, it's best to go in a large group with at least 3 guiding professionals. The best locations we photograph Arctic fox are in northern Canada, northern Norway, Greenland, and Iceland. They are roughly the size of a house cat and they can be difficult to spot as their coats often blend into the landscape. Arctic foxes are scavengers and they like to hang out around bird nesting areas and farmlands. They can be totally comfortable with you if you're quiet, calm, and moving slowly. We have photographed wild reindeer across northern Canada and northern regions across Scandinavia. Their temperament is very similar to that of a regular deer. They are approachable but very shy, unless it's mating season. In this case, this results in aggression from the males. Approaching slowly and indirectly and having a lot of patience can reward you with some incredible photos of reindeer. Whale watching is a very popular activity in the coastal regions of our world, but is often executed unethically. Respecting the space of the pod should come first. It's never a good idea to intercept whales while they're in transit. Often finding a pod and cutting the engine and waiting for them to approach the boat out of their own curiosity offers a much better overall experience for both the whale viewing and photography as well as the whale's well-being. If you are swimming with whales, be sure to do so with a professional guide on an organized tour that has plenty of experience. In my experience with swimming with orcas and humpbacks in the Arctic, it's always best to find a pod that is feeding. In this situation, the whales won't be bothered by your presence, and you'll be able to observe their incredible behaviors underwater for a long period of time. Walrus are not as skittish as seals. They are more approachable, but they are also more dangerous. They have large tusks and can be very aggressive if bothered or if they feel the need to be territorial. Seals are always on the lookout for threats such as polar bears or whales, so they are often more difficult to approach closely. Walrus beach haulouts in Svalbard are fantastic for viewing and photographing walruses. Seals are typically located on the fast ice edges, rocky shorelines, and near marinas. Of course, local wildlife will vary greatly from person to person. There are some global recommendations we have for you to get better experiences. For someone who is just starting out and wants to discover what wildlife lies outside their front door, one of the best things you can do is to connect with a local community. Whether that's in Facebook local photography groups, outdoors groups, or birding groups, for example, You can also go to local photography stores to pick the staff's brains, or you can go to the local visitor center for your town and also see what commercial wildlife operations are operating in your nearby area. Start off by introducing yourself into the local Facebook groups with a simple, "Hi, my name is X and I'm looking for some photography friends to photograph local wildlife with. I'm also looking for any tips on how to find X species." I've used this many times as I've moved to new areas and searched for the best spots to find certain species. In our area in Canada, we have various whales, sea otters, river otters, eagles and other raptors, grizzly and black bears, cougars, wolves, lynx, and more. For example, moose are considered to be one of the more dangerous animals in Canada, and visitors may think that they're actually approachable like deer, which is definitely not the case. So please be sure to do your research and to always have at least one photography buddy, and never try to approach a predatory animal without a professional with plenty of experience and a safety plan. One of my favorite things to photograph near my home are the local sea otters. In order to photograph sea otters, you can go along the west coast from Alaska through Vancouver Island down to California. You can find them in scattered population sets. You can approach them via smaller boats or by sea kayak. We typically approach them via sea kayak with a professional guide. We have experience doing this, so please take necessary precautions and keep your gear dry and dry bags, and ensure that you have insurance for your camera gear. These are not easy animals to capture. River otters, on the other hand, are definitely a bit more urban, so you can look for them at boat launches, marinas, and of course local streams and rivers. Another local favorite of ours to capture are bears. We're able to capture them from small boats that can travel upstreams, always with a professional guide and at a safe distance for us, as well as for the bears to not stress them out or prevent them from feeding. In order to get the best photographs of birds in your local area, you can visit estuaries, ponds, nature reserves, and sanctuaries in the early morning or late afternoons. The best thing you can do is become aware of what birds are in season during specific months of the year. You can also visit the same area at the same time each day to learn the birds' habits and where they're nesting. You can get a little photography setup with some clothes that blend into the scenery, a backpack with water and snacks, and even make use of a photography wildlife blind. Because photographing certain birds well is all about patience. The best photographs will come when you go to a location multiple times and learn the behavioral patterns and the angles. Additionally, for backyard birds, you can use a similar setup if you're keen. It's ideal to carefully watch the flight patterns and behavior to predict what branch, tree, or flower the bird will fly to. It's also important to note with birds to always photograph the entirety of their wingspan in a photo of them flying. You can always take portraits of just their head, but for me personally, I recommend always aiming to capture the entire body of the bird and leaving enough negative space around the body. Birds can have such spectacular colors and features, and you don't want to miss out on them by cropping in too closely. Hopefully you've learned a few tips that will help improve your wildlife experiences and give you the confidence to find some subjects close to your home that you can approach yourself, or to reach out to some professionals that can take you to photograph your dream wildlife.